Across Nigeria, we see very impressive buildings, flyovers, secretariats, roads, yet poverty remains very high. Jobs are scarce, small businesses are struggling, yet you you cannot, put this together. So the question is not whether governors are working. The real question is, are they investing in the right things? Right? Many years ago, I was in a television program and I introduced two lexicons in a governance conversation. Some things I called soft infrastructure and hard infrastructure. I tried to explain, because I was involved in a subnational at the time, what we were doing in terms of soft infrastructure, which is a very foundational systems that you put in place that creates real change in the livelihood of the people. This is not an attack. This conversation is not an attack on infrastructure generally. Infrastructure is very important, but infrastructure without economic activity is decoration. That's what it is, right? The development is not what we see. It is what people can earn, produce, and sustain, right? So the core question is, why do Nigerian governments spend bulk of the public resources on brick and mortar projects instead of programs that generate real economic values? So I've titled this conversation "Brick and Mortar Governance," which is one of the things that we see that is very, very visible in Nigeria. So let's hazard some guesses around why Nigerian governance, especially at the subnational, even at the federal government, Nigerian governments, so both federal and subnationals pay a lot of attention on brick and mortar, right? So it's visible politics, for the optics. Building rules are easy to see. Flyovers, buildings, structures are very easy to see. They photograph very well, they're very photogenic. They fit campaign slogans. We built, we constructed, we commissioned. On the other hand, economic programs take time and are harder to showcase. So you need to, struggle through a lot of conversation to explain in real terms how those economic programs are evolving. So we have this political legacy psychology. Legacy, sometimes we had a governor that created what he called legacy projects, and those legacy projects, 100% were buildings, brick and mortar. Governors want physical monuments that lived at tenure, buildings carrying their names, flyovers carrying their names. Programs often don't. Roads become symbol of power, not tools of productivity, procurement and control incentives. So these are some of the reasons why brick and mortar projects are often, preferred. So they are highly centralized, easy to award contracts, easy to control spending narratives. Economic programs require transparency, monitoring, result tracking, and citizen feedback, and it's very real. So, if you say you're doing well and people are hungry, right? It's there. People can access Medicare. People can access quality education. People can businesses are not growing. People are not earning real income within your subnational within your ecosystem. Those things are very rarely real. You cannot commission, uh, feeding people, increasing businesses, and all those things. But you can commission a building in one day. But economic empowerment, you can't commission it in a day. So, why do we do this? We have very weak economic planning capacity. Many many subnational, even at the national level, lack a strong development economists. Lack program designers, lack data-driven planning units. So they default to what they understand: construction. You understand? So for you to design a program that massively improves the lives of the people. It takes a lot of backroom work, it's a lot of thinking, a lot of system design, you know, and it takes a lot of data tracking, to be able, real time data tracking, to be able to measure growth in economic sectors. Unlike, brick and mortar, we built 100 schools and all that. What is we have this fair allocation mentality for the subnationals. So every month, uh, commissioners of finance and accountant generals gather in Abuja and they share the federal booty, and everybody goes home. So, what can we build? Not what can we grow. So that become the mentality. So, what is the cost for this of this approach, right? So we have roads without creating real jobs. We have empty roads in many subnationals. We're building things that don't create value unless they host productivity activities. Unemployment remains high despite infrastructure growth. Idle infrastructure, empty industrial parks, unused skill centers, unused flyovers, unused roads in some cases. Government buildings that generate no revenue. We saw in a state in the southeast, which was not just in the southeast, across Nigeria, governors are tumbling over themselves who is going to build the highest number of flyovers within his tenure. We saw some states where these flyovers were built and no vehicles are applying the flyovers. Some of these flyovers have gone to pedestrian lanes for cattle and all those things. No vehicle. Flyovers ideally is supposed to respond to traffic pressure, but when it's the mentality is about brick and mortar, we just flood the entire state with flyovers in places where a simple design roundabout could create some beautiful aesthetics and also help in traffic management. Low cost, very easy to construct and design. We'll go and put gigantic beams and pillars and put flyovers that take, months to construct, tons of billions to, construct, and we just, spend huge resources on something that is, in economic sense, very, very Western. So today, we need to help our subnationals to rethink development strategy, to know that what they need is, more jobs for the young people. We need more quality, affordable, accessible healthcare and education, right? We need small businesses. We need to create businesses that who have access to capital, create market access to them, help them build capacity, formalization, mentorship. So this is what we create the energetic economic growth that is needed to drive away poverty, despondency, criminality, and all kinds of vices and unrest that have arrested our our systems. So we need to be investing in things that generate real growth, economic activities, SMEs financing linked to local industrialization, skill to market programs, cooperative based production clusters, digital economy initiatives. These are things that a smart and subnational leader needs to build his development strategy around so that you can be able to develop local economic development, led, administration, so because every state, every subnational in Nigeria has a natural advantage. There are cultural industries, agricultural strength, and those are what our subnational leaders should be looking for, so can a governor say what product is my state best at? What can we produce? How can we scale? How do we connect our artists, our entrepreneurs to the market? How do we help them earn foreign currency? Now, it is when you have now brought that strategy that you now design infrastructure as an enabler. How do we use infrastructure, build roads to farm factory markets, build powerful industries, build buildings, that will house productivity. This is how our governors need to start thinking. So we need to move from elite listening to citizen listening. Um, Most of our subnational leaders they don't really have the connection with the people on the streets to understand what the average person on the street, is talking about. They listen more to their A schools, political allies, contractors, the elites, as it were. We need to listen to what the market women are saying. What is the artisans saying? Small business owners, youth groups. What are the farmers saying? Can we use data? What is the number of employment created? Business survival rates, household income trend. How does our policy respond to evidence, not just intuition? Let's w- create a measuring metric that is different from you know the number of public buildings, number of schools renovated. We could have in a state where you have schools budget for education maybe 100 billion, for example, and they spent 90 billion in constructing buildings. That may not translate in improved outcome in education. So what can we invest in that can improve the learning outcomes? How do we improve and enhance the capacity of our teachers to deliver quality education? You could spend 100 billion in the health sector just building hospitals. How do we organizing the health delivery system to ensure that somebody works at a hospital, he gets proper consultation, he access quality drugs, he access quality diagnostics, and the patient leaves the hospital having access quality healthcare delivery system, right? So how do we ensure that? Is it just by brick and mortar? The answer is actually no. So if we're building roads, kilometer of roads built with how many jobs did it create? How many businesses is it sustaining? How many household incomes increase? How do this road were built? How do we measure it in terms of internally generated revenue growth? These are some of the institutionalized economic thinking. So we need to empower, development delivery teams, state economic planning units, recruit, put smart professionals, people who understand how to use data to, measure growth and tell the story of leadership, not political loyalists who sing songs praises of leaders. So redevelopment is not what we see; it's what people can do, earn, and become. Right. So Nigeria does not suffer from lack of buildings. I don't think that is our problem. I think it suffers from lack of productive investment. Those are the subnational must shift from construction mindsets to economic mindsets. So uh, the question is, if you are connected to this our channel, right? We need to think not political visibility but human prosperity. So if you were a governor today, what program, not buildings, would you prioritize for your people? You know, Drop your comments as where your state need against what the system is delivering. Uh, do you think roads and buildings alone can reduce poverty? Yes or no? Tell me why. Why do you think this? We need to change this thinking system, this strategy, so that we can deliver real growth, improvement in livelihood for our people. That is actually what they need. Maybe they may not need more roads. They may need their lives improved. Yeah, thank you for joining this. Like I said, I'm not a critic, I'm just a thinker and someone who's been involved and sitting out and looking in now, seeing what needs to change. How do we enhance the software of governance instead of brick and mortar? What are those economic and system improvements, institutions we need to build that deliver growth and enhance the livelihood of the people, put more money in their pocket, more food on their table, improve their health care outcomes, education outcomes, all the economic outcomes, social services outcomes, instead of spending on, when we think capital expenditure, we have huge money, we're building roads. Infrastructure is good. Infrastructure like, is the backbone for development. But if we put all our resources on infrastructure alone, we end up with having flyovers where cars are not flying, airports with no planes, hospital buildings with no diagnostic equipment, no drugs in the pharmacy, and no nurses and doctors to attend to patients. We have school buildings with no qualified teachers and no learning taking place. This we need to tie it together and so that we can improve the life of our people. Thank you for listening.